I know it doesn't feel like it, but there is a lot of hope. It changed my life, shifted and 180 flipped my entire life, and through that saved me. I was very sad. I had a really, really traumatic childhood. I love my family. I love, all the support they've given me. But even so, we experienced a lot of trauma from each other. We experienced a lot of trauma together. I grew up in California and I always wanted to be a singer, dancer, actor on Broadway. So when I was 17, I moved to New York and I pursued that full time. For a while, I was a dancer, a singer, an actor, everything I wanted to be. And I worked really hard for it, but it really just perpetuated all of this trauma that I had not looked at before. So there was a lot of really, really deep depression, anorexia, PTSD at one point. I was just in the depths of all of that before psychedelics. I had been in therapy for a few years in New York. I started yoga and meditation, and these things were really, really helpful in just managing my symptoms. But I was still in a really, really dark place leading up to the moment that I first took psychedelic medicine. The first time that I remember hearing about psychedelics was from a friend of mine who had mentioned something about ayahuasca briefly. It was the most random thing. I was just speaking about depression, how I really struggle, how I'm going to therapy, and he just randomly mentioned that he sat with ayahuasca a few years back, that it really helped him, that it helped some others in the same group with PTSD, with depression, and that was it. It was like just a little, seed dropped, and I never heard about psychedelics from him again or from anybody else, really. I was introduced to ayahuasca before mushrooms, and I didn't get my ayahuasca experience. So leading up to the ayahuasca experience, I was definitely trying to overcome deep depression and anorexia as well. After ayahuasca got canceled, and then I had 1 week before my recreational mushroom experience, then I was just curious. I really wasn't expecting the mushrooms to fix what I was feeling. I didn't expect them to really show me what I was feeling and how to navigate through it. I was just curious. I started reading about psychedelics and how you can have a more open mind. And then, of course, you hear all these stories about, like, oh, yeah, my friend took a bunch of tabs of acid and saw like dragons. So I was just like, I wonder what this is going to be like, but I feel that I'm in a really open place to just embrace whatever comes to me during this experience. So while a part of me, months, perhaps weeks leading up, really did want to take a look at the depression that I was feeling, I was just radically open and curious for my mushroom experience. So I was preparing for this experience because I was preparing for the ayahuasca experience that got canceled a week before my mushroom experience. So I decided to stay on the ayahuasca diet. I intuitively felt that, hey, might as well stay on it and try mushrooms on the ayahuasca diet. And in addition to that, I remember the day that I took mushrooms with my friend. She's a pro, she's taken mushrooms many times recreationally. So we took the medicine with our smoothies, and then we just started watching a movie, waiting for the medicine to kind of kick in. And I remember I just started to feel the medicine coming in. And she definitely told me about how when the medicine comes in, you kind of just want to like hold on to something. You might want to sit down and just relax and allow the medicine to kind of take you up. I felt the medicine coming in, so I kind of just closed my eyes and I relaxed into what I was feeling. And that's it. The medicine just took me to this beautiful, beautiful space where all of a sudden I felt connected to everything around me. I felt connected to life's energy. I felt that I could see life's energy flowing through the walls. And it wasn't, I was expecting to maybe see dragons or have these crazy visions and hallucinations, but really I was just connected to myself and my earth and the people around me. And it was a very beautiful feeling. So I had just moved into my apartment as well this time, and my walls were all white. I only had a couch and a bed, a very blank slate for a really interesting trip. And I went into my room to lay on my bed when it started kicking in. And then immediately I just see like plants and vines coming out of my walls, coming from the ceiling, coming from the ground. And these vines sort of wrapped around me as I was on my bed, and they picked me up and lifted me and started cradling me like a baby. They would speak to me, these plants would speak to me, and they were containing like these universal truths that were directly related to my journey and my experience in life. Through those vines cradling me, I felt Mother Earth hold me like a child of the earth. I really, really needed to feel that in that moment. Like I said before, I was really struggling with this deep, dark depression. And I had done these things throughout my entire life, especially the past 5 years leading up to this experience. I was really investing my time in yoga and meditation and therapy and staying on top of my symptoms. And what I realized when the vines were cradling me and when my Mother Earth was holding me so warmly in this way that I needed to be held, I realized that everything I was doing leading up to this experience was pointing to everything that was inside of myself, and that all of the answers I needed were within me, and that my ability to be healed from this depression or healed from these waves of life that I'm flowing through, it was all found inside of me. And then through this, about 6 months later, is when I had my ayahuasca experience. And my ayahuasca experience was directly calling me back to the medicine of the mushrooms. And it was just night and day clear, something that had been speaking to me for a while that I had been fighting. And finally, ayahuasca is like, no more fighting. It's time to step into this role. This is your path. You don't have to doubt it. You don't have to question it. It's just your path, so just step into it. And I spoke to the teachers, the ayahuasca, the people who serve the medicine in Peru. I worked with the Shipibo people, and I spoke to the people who served our medicine, and they told me that mushrooms were ancestrally a Mexican medicine, and that my Mexican ancestors were coming into ceremony and asking me to reopen our lineage with the medicine of the mushrooms. I didn't even know that mushrooms were a Mexican medicine, so this was just so, so beautiful to me. And eventually, this first journey that I had that really opened up my mind completely led me back to my ancestral roots in Mexico, where now I work in Huautla de Jimenez in Oaxaca with the Mazatec people who have been serving mushrooms for thousands and thousands of years. Is that everything I'm looking for, I can find inside of myself. How that manifests, I mean, it manifests in so many different ways. When I'm sad, when I'm upset, when I have a traumatic experience from my childhood being triggered in my relationship, I know that I have the ability to step into a different room and hold myself the way that I wasn't held as a child, the way that I need to be held in this moment. I know that I have the ability to brighten my day. I know that I have the ability to connect deeply with my emotions so that they can pass through my body so that I can move through them. I know it's a cliche, or it sounds like a cliche, but leading from love definitely is the biggest shift that's happened for me, and being really intentional. I think it was a lot of discipline, because I had all these insights come from my experience. And I remember during my trip, I was like, what? This is awesome. Everybody should take mushrooms all the time. We all need to be operating from this space. And my friend very clearly told me, well, it's not about always taking mushrooms, but it's about taking these insights from this trip into your life and into how you interact with other people. I would recommend for somebody at the beginning of their journey to begin a meditative practice with focus on openness of intentionality. So, no expectations from their experience and not getting really hard about their meditative practice, but having a meditative practice so that they can then be a little more open to what they might experience. I know it doesn't feel like it, but there is a lot of hope. You're processing some really, really difficult emotions right now, and that's okay. That's life. But there is hope, and you are safe, and there is another side to what you're experiencing right now, and you can get there.